I got this on my way. So drift. 나나만 보고 driving like round, round. Let me hear you say. Everybody say oh. Hey. Undercover, hey, need my name. Yes, no. Back down. Tell you all every day, every night. We got the time. We don't give a fuck. 우리 손을 그어줘.
What is up, everyone? My name is Tony. Welcome back to my channel where I react to K-pop and all other kinds of music. If you're new here, welcome. Hope you enjoy my reaction. If you do, please consider liking and subscribing. It definitely helps me out. You can also feel free to follow me on Instagram and or Twitter. If you are interested, links are down in the description. I always follow back. And yeah, other than that, finally getting back into some DPR Ian. It's been a while. I was getting into because I'm like preparing. I'm going to go see DPR at the end of September. So I was preparing for the concert by like getting more into DPR Cream's music, and then I wanted to get into DPR Arctic, which I did finally check out the whole Kinema album. It's up on my Patreon. Unfortunately, it's a paid tier. I sincerely apologize, but it is up on Patreon. It's in the live concert album review tier if you are interested to go watch my reaction to that. But definitely still need to get into more of DPR Cream and also DPR Ian. So I'm gonna do two reactions to DPR Ian. Someone excuse me, sorry. I have a Google recommendation sheet where people can just like recommend things that they want me to react to. And someone recommended, I can't remember, Mimi recommended this. She recommended, they recommended, I don't want to assume gender. They recommended some interviews that Ian did. So I'm going to get to one of them today. But I also have some like visualizer words. I also have some visualizers that I haven't gotten to that I really want to watch. So I'm just going to do two separate reactions. This reaction is going to be the interview, and then I'm going to do another reaction where I'm just getting to the visualizers. I think it's just best to keep them separate. I could do one full reaction, but I think for like interview versus music purposes, I'm just going to keep them separate. So anyway, getting into this interview that Ian did with JoJo about his songwriting process, mental health, peanut butter and tears, and other things. So everyone told me that his interviews are very in-depth and very open, and can help me learn a little bit more about Ian and his mental health struggles and how it correlates with his music and things like that. So I definitely wanted to get more into more of his interviews. Also, I just want to like say that I do have Ian's From subscription. Like whenever he first announced that he was going to have his own like From bubble thing, I don't even know what to call it because it's like Bubble, but it's not Bubble. It's From, but it's, you know, like the messaging thing. So I am subscribed to that. So I do like get his messages and stuff. And I felt like this was like the perfect time to get into his interviews because he was literally just talking in From about how he's been struggling lately, which I'm still just shook at how open and vulnerable he is about, you know, when he's not feeling well and when he's going through things and stuff like that. Because, you know, as someone like myself who actually has a degree in psychology, I have my bachelor's in psychology and communications, I struggle with being vulnerable. It's something that I'm very much not good at. if I'm like going through a depression, going through anxiety, whatever mental health thing I'm going through, I tend to hide it. I tend to like hold myself up and like deal with it on my own and not really tell people about it. Like, I don't know how to describe it. I very much am like a functioning. I don't know how to describe it. Like, I go into robot mode, I guess you could say. Like, I very much go into like, I need to do what I need to do, and I need to do my job, and I need to do this, and I need to do that. But I very much ignore like how I'm truly feeling, which is not healthy at all. I very much know that it's not healthy. It's not a good coping mechanism. But I've always struggled to be transparent about when I'm going through something. Only certain people in my life truly know whenever I'm going through something, to say the least. So I'm just always so amazed at how open and transparent Ian is, about his struggles and when he's feeling a switch coming on, or a manic episode or things like that. Like, I'm always just so amazed, because I'm not like that at all. But um I do think I do think it's frustrating that like he is so open about it, and he very much is like not only talking about his mental health problems for like his own venting process, but also I'm sure to like let people know that they're not alone in the things that they feel. You know what I mean? Like, I very much think that he wants dreamers to know that like, if you're having a depressive episode, if you have DID, if you have bipolar disorder, if you have, these mental health issues, like, just know that you're not alone, and that there's a lot of other people in this world who also go through those same, not maybe exactly the same, but they all go through, different mental health problems, and kind of like, it's okay to talk about, and also it's okay to not be okay. You know what I mean? So I think it's frustrating that he's just so open and transparent and so like educating about mental health, and yet there's still people out here who are like hating on him. Like, I Twitter has been such a mess lately, like talking about how like he's just seeking attention and this and that, and I just find that so, I don't know. Like you really must like not struggle in life if you have those kind of thoughts. But I just like, because then I did see Ian's tweets that he put on Twitter as well. But I think it's totally normal to want to vent. Like, I very much do that. If I'm like upset or stressed about something, like, I very much, go to a close friend of mine and I vent it out. I'm like, this is what's happening. Fuck this, fuck that. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, whatever I need to talk about. And then you just kind of let it go, right? Like, that's how venting works. And I think that's exactly what Ian was doing. I think he was just going into From to like vent what he was going through and then get over it and move forward. You know what I mean? Like, and I very much get that. I very much get that. Like, I think people need to realize that there's a difference between, I don't know how to describe it. There's a difference between needing someone to listen so you can let things off your shoulders and then, clear your headspace and move forward in a more positive light, versus someone who talks about their problems and then expects you to fix it. There's a huge difference, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but I just think Ian like needed to vent what he was going through and needed someone to listen, and now he's just going to move forward in life. Like, that's just, that's the vibe that I got whenever I was in From. But like, I just like to send him supporting messages and From and things like that, and try to do what I can to just make him not feel alone, and that we're listening, and even though I can't fully comprehend what exactly he's going through, because everyone's situation is different, but I can still empathize, and I can still be there as a listener, to like hear what he has to say and what he's going through. But anyway, I figured since all of that literally just happened, that this would be like a perfect time to hop into an interview that he did, um, about opening up about his mental health and things like that. So I'm excited to get into this interview. I'm very interested to learn more, and things like that. But yeah, so let's just hop into it. Sorry. I need to like stop talking, or else it's just going to be a whole video of me talking. Okay, let's get to the interview. I don't know. Okay.
Dude, it is a pleasure to finally meet you, man.
I know. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. DPR Ian is here, and just funny backstory. Yeah, I had an interview with the artist Max.
Yes.
Just before you walked in,
Yeah.
and you were scheduled to come in about an hour after.
Right.
And I thought, I wonder if these schedules work out where you guys can kind of.
Yeah.
And you bumped into Max, and he seemed to love you. And what was that? Did you know? You didn't know that was going to happen?
I had no idea. Yeah, I was just coming back from the toilet, and I was just so shocked because it was, first of all, it was a pleasure meeting you.
Same.
Thank you so much. And and then all of a sudden, Max was there too, and it was just like, oh, it's meant to be, So who knows? Maybe future works. Maybe
that's if a collab happens. I just want to say
would be something.
I'm going to take credit for that collab if it happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, are you originally from Sydney, Australia?
That's correct.
And of course you moved to Seoul after that.
Yes, that's correct.
But you're not. Where's home now?
So that's a good question.
Oh wow! So you're all over, huh?
Yeah, I've been kind of like a nomad. I just kind of keep moving and moving. Honestly, right now it's LA. We just moved here about a year ago.
What do you think? So
okay. I didn't know that. I always assumed that he was in Seoul.
I don't think we've experienced LA to the point where I can really kind of tell you like how it feels. But I do hear a lot of things. But first of all, I love the weather. It's very Australian. And for me, I think
Australian.
As soon as we got here, we went on tour, like a world tour. So I had spent more time out than in, and we just recently got back, and starting to feel it out now. But it's nice. It's nice.
Traffic when it comes to like LA traffic versus Sydney or Seoul, is LA like by far the worst traffic, or is it similar?
I think when it gets honestly, I think Korea traffic is something else.
Really?
Yeah, traffic in Asia just
Interesting.
Sydney, I think Sydney's kind of more similar to LA. When it gets congested, it just doesn't move at all. But it doesn't happen. I mean, you somehow still get through it. But in Korea, you just kind of, you're just like a sitting duck for the longest time. And you can maybe doze off and still come back and you'll move like a few inches. Yeah.
Oh God, it sounds lovely.
Yeah.
Hey, and I read somewhere that you had lost your Australian accent when you moved to Seoul, but I hear your Australian accent perfect.
Really?
Yeah.
To be honest though, it really did die down a lot because in Korea we don't have that many. I haven't met too many Australian Koreans, or Australians period, and my crew and the people that I hung around with at that time were speaking American English.
Right.
So then when I started mixing my accent with the American accent, and then I tried speaking Korean because I wasn't really good at it, I started sounding very like they have like a very interesting accent. It sounds like a very like North Korean accent. So people thought I was from the North. Are you adventurous? Like, do you travel a lot too? I feel like you would.
You know what? If I could, I would.
Yeah.
I'm in
so
Burbank
busy.
so much over here.
Oh,
so
boy.
Yeah. All right. Hey, once again, DPR Ian's hanging out. I need to know the backstory of, and granted, I've read all this, stuff, but we were talking off air. There's more to
DPR.
what I have read about DPR and the backstory, and what does it mean? Is it a production crew? How do you see what is DPR?
Well, DPR stands for Dream Perfect Regime, and honestly, in the beginning, the acronyms were a little different. I came up with the acronyms right around the time I left C Clown, which used to be my old K-pop idol group.
Right.
So it was in pursuit of trying to create something new in the scene. And at that time in Korea, there wasn't too many, I would say, production companies that went off independently. So for me, the dream was to kind of create a movement where you have your in-house productions and your in-house artists really come together creatively and build some type of vision. And for me, it was just all about art, and that's kind of when I picked up the camera. And as I was telling you earlier, the acronyms used to be Director Pink Reel.
Director
Pink, and then Reel.
Director Pink Reel. Now, what in the world does that mean?
You know what? If you ask me now, I have no idea. I have no idea. But I used to do these, like, you know how people have watermarks on their videos and stuff. So I used to squiggle like these pink lines. I don't know why. I really don't. I wish I did. But slowly and surely, you know, we started as
it
a
was
production
just your
company,
signature
so we
mark,
shot
I
a lot
guess.
of, music videos for certain companies, artists, idols, and all of a sudden we decided to rebrand the
I did not know
DPR
that.
acronyms to Dream Perfect Regime, which kind of stands for, I mean, you know, the word regime is pretty like it could sound intense, you know, nowadays, but it's kind of like, for us, it was just a strong enough word to describe our passion to wanting to create a dream that supported, like, I think, independent thought and creative ideas. And because I feel like in Korea there's such a, I wouldn't call lack, but a lot of people are scared to have a voice in general, just because yes, because
I can see that.
I think it's more generally based on the idea, if you stick out too much, you could be judged a lot. And for, you know, Asian communities especially, I think in terms there's a lot of we call it nunchi in Korea, which means you're kind of overlooking what that person might think of you, and it's a very conservative way of thinking as well. At the same time, I think it's a cultural thing, but because of that, it really does have its pros and cons. But if you really think about it, it is a big echo chamber.
Right.
So I kind of wanted to bring out the idea of, like, you know, you could be different, and you can really speak out about it, and you could still find a way to make it in the scene. And I think that's what DPR really stands for. It's the independence of kind of believing in yourself, and that's kind of where we took our vision for Dream Perfect.
I think that's very interesting, and I think it's very accurate, but I also think that hierarchy has a lot of play into this as well. Like, it's not I definitely think, like, it's very much, you need to toe the line. You need to, there's such a particular social construct in South Korea that needs to be followed in order for you to, like, fit in. But I also think hierarchy has a lot to do with this as well, because, I mean, if you really think about it, you know, if you're in a company, like music production company, idol company, I mean, whatever it may be, there's a hierarchy, right? And you can't just say what you want, do what you want, create how you want. There's always going to be someone above you that is going to be in control, or going to kind of dictate your creativeness and the music that you produce, and, you know, things like that. Like, I feel like that's very much a thing in South Korea as well when it comes to, you know, music and the music industry. I think that's why a lot of idols end up, you know, leaving their companies and starting a new company or being independent, because that way they don't have anyone telling them what they need or what they can do when it comes to their own music. You know what I mean? I think this whole movement in the music industry has really just started. You know what I mean? When it comes to idols not wanting to rely on these big conglomerate companies who have basically taken over the music industry and dictate their artists and the music that they do and how they create and things like that. So I think a lot more artists are realizing in Korea that, you know, I can go independent and it can work for me if I take the right steps. So I definitely think that Ian is totally correct in saying that it very much is, you know, social norm and following what society expects of you and things like that. I totally agree, but I also think hierarchy has like a piece in it as well. But I hope that that is changing and continues to change in South Korea, though.
So a lot of people that work with you have that kind of out of the box thinking, so to speak.
100%. I would say none of us are normal.
Well, you came to the right place over here, that's for sure. I got to hear about this track, Ian, because I feel like this track has either an interesting or unusual backstory just with the title alone, Peanut Butter and Tears. What can you say? It's got to be a wild story, right?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
All right, give me all them details.
I think, so just to briefly put it, I think I made this song about a couple of months back, last year, I believe. And for Australia, well, for the people in Australia, we don't call it peanut butter and jelly, as you guys call it in America.
What do you call it?
we don't. We
Oh,
call
really?
it toast. Like literally, we just call it toast. So
Oh,
I found
okay.
The toast has peanut butter and jelly on it.
We actually do. So we have peanut butter and jam.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, but we even so, it's not a usual combo. Like we usually put like honey and
Avocado.
Have you tried?
No,
Not a fan of
maybe I
not
haven't
a fan
tried
of
it in the
Vegemite.
proper way.
Yes.
Maybe it gets a bad rap.
Uh-huh.
But I had a friend who, showed up and, it was she was an artist. She is an artist, and she showed up with the Vegemite.
Wow.
I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I used to spend time in Australia, so like that's why I know about Vegemite. Excuse me. And I love Tim Tams. Is that what they're called? I freaking love Tim Tams. I would go to I literally did all my grocery shopping at Woolies. I spent about 4 months, I think, in Australia, mostly in Melbourne. And then I did go do touring around Sydney, but if you guys didn't know that.
And maybe just the fear of the taste of it really kind of.
I loved Australia.
I took a bite of it, and I just. It was not the thing.
I agree though. You probably can't eat it as it is. I would never do that. I don't know how people can. I don't even know what it's made out of, but we put that with honey. But then anyway, you guys have peanut butter and jelly, which was
Right.
Maybe it wouldn't be so bad with the honey.
Because I didn't know jelly was the actual jam that you guys use.
Right.
So I thought, wow. For some reason, I have eaten peanut butter and jam before, but for some reason I just wanted to eat it, knowing that it's called peanut butter and jelly now. Does that make sense?
Just to be part of this whole thing.
Yeah, just to be part of it. And I think there's a period in time where I got
He's so
really
cute.
addicted to it. So I was like, oh, I don't know why I loved it so
It's
much.
good. That's why.
It's so good. Oh my god, it's so good. Especially it's something like
That's so funny.
Crustables or something, and then you have peanut butter filling and jam.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
I could eat that all day, and I did eat it all day. So there was a period in time where I got really hooked on it, and it kind of reminded me of when I was younger. I was like, oh, I didn't really think of peanut butter and jelly. I don't know why I'm so honed into it now as to when I was younger. And you kind of think when you're younger, it really
I was
the
never
appeal
really
of the
into peanut butter and jelly.
It's because you're so youthful and you're so innocent and you take everything as it is. You kind of see the world like that. It's more colorful, and that's why peanut butter and jelly. It for me right now, because I've kind of grown and I feel like I've grown out of my shoes. It just serves as a friendly reminder of what I possibly must have really enjoyed when I was young. So I think I gave it such a meaning to it. But then when I look back as a kid, it really wasn't anything.
So it's so the song itself, Peanut Butter Tears, is some sort of a nostalgic
It
kind
is
of
nostalgic. And I think it's just it's in reverse. So when I was younger, it's kind of I kind of saw the world as something that's like a playground. But it wasn't that special because when you're young, you just kind of perceive it as it is. But only when you grow out of it, you kind of tend to realize what was special, what was so special about it, because you have something to compare it to now. And I think that's what peanut butter and tea.
I totally get what he's saying. It's because when you're younger and you're enjoying your youth, you don't really enjoy it because you don't fully understand yet what it means to lose your youth. So you don't fully appreciate it until you're much older and you realize, like, I should have appreciated those moments of my youth more when I had the chance because now that's gone. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's what he's saying. Like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that's where he's going
Years have come from.
with
So
that.
jelly for me was like the significant part where it introduced the fun and joy. I do like peanut butter, but I mean, I feel like the jam jelly really does a lot of, and it's colorful. And so I feel like that with tears is kind of like the adolescence of understanding your maturity and growing out of your your youth. And it's for me, it kind of works backwards because as I get older I kind of tend to want to become or tend to find myself when I was more youthful. And but when you're younger you just kind of take it as it is, and it really wasn't a big deal, and you just kind of tend to forget as you get older.
This is okay. I don't know if I've ever heard. I don't think I've ever played a song on the radio.
Oh really?
Called Peanut Butter. I don't think. Yeah. So,
Okay.
so this is a special moment. So it's one of those things.
Thank you. That's nice.
Yeah. DPR Ian, of course. Peanut Butter Tears. Must check that. And
Yes, please.
new album
Yes.
in the works.
Yeah,
Don't
actually-
leak what you can't say, or
Oh.
I don't know what what.
That's okay. I was just saying. Yeah, no. So that single is part of the album called Dear Insanity. Dear Insanity is a side story to the main story, which is based on a character called Mido. So Mido is the character that I switch into when I go on a very manic low because I have bipolar.
Right.
So I have a tendency to switch, kind of like DID, into a character called Mido. And I based my whole artistry and concept around that character. I mean, knowing well enough, if you give a certain, I guess you could call a disorder a name, I know how much power you're giving to it. But for me, if it wasn't that, like I really don't know what to sing about and really how to express my art. So for me, that was the main kind of storyline, which is why you have the first EP and the second official album based on this character Mido. And it's pretty much just about where he fits and how he's developed in this world and where he comes from. And it's a very fantasy like tale. But this side EP called Dear Insanity, which is coming out, I forgot the date, but it's coming out probably next 2 months or something. It's pretty much a side story based on the character Mr. Insanity, which
Right.
is, as you know, as if I have my lows, there's a character that represents my highs, and that is Mr. Insanity. So it's like this ongoing feud of your lows and your highs, and you're stuck right in between. So for me, like I always thought, being lukewarm, where I've only ever known in my life extremely highs and extreme lows. So for me, like being in the middle, lukewarm, it always served as a very uncomfortable position.
But now you're trying to get more comfortable with the lukewarm. Is that?
Yeah. I think when I was younger, it was more about the fear of like, what if I dip, and the fear of, well, not the fear, but kind of more of the pressure of like, I really want to go up, because I've always wanted to stay high, with my manic highs, because it was just more, you felt a very overpowered and you spontaneous. Granted, it's spontaneous, but you felt everything aligned. But I mean, when you're down there, it's like a whole switch. It feels like a complete different world. And
Wow.
the projects that you start when you're here, as to when you're down here, you kind of don't know how you did it. So like there'll be sometimes when I'll be making a song, and say like Mr. Insanity would be making a song, and then I'll switch to Mido, and then Mido would flip the song, and all of a sudden you have this first part of the song sounding like some electronic indie type of genre, and then all of a sudden it changes to orchestral and very like requiem style classical music. And I'll just wake up to it and I'm like, oh, I have no idea what happened here. So
Can I ask a question about that? And maybe it's a sensitive question, but
That's okay.
I've had a friend with bipolar, and when you're creating a song, you said you can switch from the characters, meaning the high or the low of bipolar.
That's correct.
So you can control that, or it just happens? Because my friend could not control.
You have no control of that.
Okay.
You're absolutely right. It's kind of like a chemical imbalance that goes in your brain, I think.
Sorry, I feel like I need to be more interactive and say things, but I just am trying to intake everything that Ian's saying and how he experiences this, because I know more about bipolar disorder than I do DID. Whenever you're getting your undergraduate degree in psychology, we're pretty much just focusing on, the more common disorders. So, like, depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder is really popular. We never really delved into the different identity disorders and things like that, because there's more than just DID. It's like a huge, like, umbrella. So we never really, like, dived deeply into all of those, because let's face it, you only have so much time to complete your degree. And I don't know if you have ever seen the DSM-5. That book is this fucking huge. Like, that book is huge. I mean, it would take you so long to, like, get through that whole thing. You get more in depth with disorders in your master's degree, and I never furthered that. I did psychology bachelor's degree, and then I hopped into org development and leadership, which in and of itself is psychology, but more of, like, business. You know what I mean? Like, of course, organizational, IO psychology, industrial organizational psychology, whatever you want to call it. So I never got more in depth into, like, the counseling or therapy side of psychology. But there's all these different niches that you can get to when it comes to psychology as well. I mean, when you get into your PhD, you can kind of, even your master's, actually, you can find, like, a niche that you really want to get into. So, like, again, like, I went into, like, organizational development psychology. You can go into you can go specifically into, like, marriage and family therapy, clinical psychology. You can go and get your PharmD, and you can bro, I'm blanking on the word. What's a psychologist with a PharmD? Bro. Psychiatrist. Oh, I sincerely apologize. You can be a psychiatrist. Anyway. Children's psychology. I mean, there's so many different avenues that you could go to when you're getting your master's degree. So it really depends on, where exactly you go with your master's, on, like, what you learn, basically. So, unfortunately, I never delved more deeply into clinical psychology because of the route that I decided to take. But I do have a basic knowledge, on psychology, of course, and things like that. But so I understand the bipolar disorder very much. And people can have bipolar disorder without having DID. Like, you very much can have bipolar where you have your highs and your lows without switching into, an alter. But as I was I was watching one of Ian's Instagram lives, and he was saying that bipolar disorder tends to come with DID, which totally makes sense. I never thought of it that way, or I never, like, considered that, but I can see why, they would kind of come together. But I just find it so interesting hearing his story, and I personally could not imagine, waking up one day and not realizing what I did the past week or two. Like, it just seems so scary to me. Especially because I'm someone who like likes to be in control of myself, and things like that. Like, I just can't imagine how it feels to wake up and not know what you did the past 2 weeks, what you got into, what you said, who you were with. Like, I just, I'll never know exactly how he feels going through that, but I have such empathy for it because I'd be scared. I would definitely like, it would be hard to handle for sure, I think. So just like hearing like his own struggles and like what exactly it feels for him is just very fascinating to me.
And I mean, depending on the type. So for me, it's type 1 is I think just rapidly high, intense moments, and it's sometimes the manic episodes could go for certain periods of like a week to even months for some people. But you feel it, like you definitely. It's kind of like when I don't know if this is an interesting metaphor, but when animals feel an earthquake's coming, it's kind of like you feel as if something's changing inside you.
You can tell it's like you can feel the rumble.
Oh yes, yes, and I think that's when you know, okay, I'm dipping, because we have a saying where it's like what goes up must come down, but then what goes down, it's kind of like a hill, and you roll a ball and it catches momentum and it goes down and it kind of goes back up, slowly creeps back up, and then just enough to tip down again. So it's like a constant wave, and for me, I've realized, I think people are different. For me, I realized I'm very seasonal. So when the weather changes, my body becomes extremely sensitive to that, I guess, imbalance. And then that tips me as well. So
Interesting.
Before,
as someone who has SDD, is that what it's called? I have seasonal depressive disorder. I very much don't function well during like winter months. It's very much, I very much like struggle to function on a normal level. So that's very interesting that he says that. I think the weather has such an effect on people. So I really find it interesting that he said that.
like they used to call me the weatherman, because it was like, because every time I go down, they know something's going to change.
Here comes the rain. Yeah.
Yeah. And funny enough, that's how it really did happen. So
interesting.
Yeah, it was only until I started making this into a character and in my music. And I think the craziest part was when I first saw that character, because for me, when I switch, I usually don't have people around me, because I'm scared of what I might say or what I might do, and I'll never remember that when I wake up, because you just kind of go in a little blackout. And I think the first time it was hard, because I was now making this into a character. I gave it a name, so I know how much power there is in that already. But shooting the music video for that, it was like,
wow, yeah.
I kind of it was the first time I let my switch happen on screen. I kind of scheduled the music video shoot to be when I was on the decline, and I think funny enough, I was at my peak, and
it seems kind of terrifying in a way.
It is
like,
very terrifying
if you're worried about controlling what you're,
100%. But I thought, if not now, when. So that was so beautiful. That was music video so beautiful, and the scenes that you see in So Beautiful, where it's all black and white, that was my switch. And what was funny was on set, I remember just walking up to it and thinking, I can't believe this is happening. And then the camera was ready to roll, and we're speeding, and I kind of took a moment. I kind of asked them when we were going to start rolling it, and then they said, and we got this all on behind the scenes, but they said, I've already done 3 takes of it.
What?
Yeah.
So that's one of those blackout moments.
Yeah.
Wow,
That's
that
wild.
is fascinating.
Yeah, and I was honestly very surprised. Even thinking now,
And you couldn't remember any of the 3 takes.
No, and I didn't believe them, but then I was drenched, because there was a scene where it was a room, and the room was raining, just raining hard, and I didn't believe them until I went to the monitors. And when I saw the monitors, that was the first time I could actually see my switch being recorded. So it was,
Has to be so surreal.
I think for me, the most relieving, but at the same time terrifying things I've ever seen in my life.
And clearly, when you saw the footage,
Yeah,
you must have loved it. Obviously,
it was a little it was hard to edit. I'll give you that. It was a little hard to edit
imagine.
because I tried to leave in as much as I could, but there were some parts that I just couldn't leave
Right.
in. But so I had to make a significant, I guess, point that all the black and white scenes there weren't me, which is why that music video goes from color to straight black and white. So that's the little significance. If
yeah, and this is all fascinating. How you've
Yeah.
taken this and kind of taken control over it
Yes,
in a way.
yeah.
Like I mean, you've embraced it in a way.
Yes. I think I would like to think I embraced it, but at the same time, the one thing that I think I'm somewhat troubled with is, it was kind of, and this was the I guess the hard decision that I had to make, because I wasn't really planning on becoming an artist, because I knew if I wanted to do music and kind of go in the spotlight with this, it meant that I would have to be talking about something that's very personal. And for me, if you give any disorder or anything a name, I know how much power you give to it. But at the same time,
The reason you gave it, because I would think this is my question from the outside looking in.
yes,
I would think if you name it,
yes,
you can kind of, I don't know, you can kind of,
take control.
maybe, but that's not the case, or is it?
I think that was my approach in the beginning. I think my approach was finding out more about it, finding out more about certain disorders that are linked to this. And I think for me, it was the more I dug, the more it took a hold of me, I think. And the funny thing is, like, with these switches, it's like it doesn't, it's like it's really based on like me, Ian, right now. It's really based on how I am physically and mentally right now. So if I, let's say, am at the healthiest I've ever been, so is my disorders, so is my switches.
Right.
It's actually,
That's very
for me, I
interesting.
found out it wasn't like, oh, you get healthy and you figure out a healthy lifestyle. It's like the switches will always happen. You can't really control your manic episodes, and a lot of people are obviously prescribed medication. But I'm sure you'll hear this I'm sure a lot of people that have bipolar that are in the, I think, artistic expressive scene. They'll tell you this. They'll say, medication will numb you, and it will make you feel like not yourself, which is probably worse. So I mean, that's the only reason
Gotcha.
why I think medication was one thing that I would resort to. But then imagine taking that and then you have to go on set and shoot something or make music, or you have to go on stage. You'll be going off as a zombie. So
Yeah, that would be kind of that would probably defeat some of the purpose of going up there, being dynamic and
100%,
whatnot.
100%.
Now, I assume you've had, fans, friends, let's just focus on fans part of it. Like,
Yep.
your fans,
Yes.
you're not the only one to deal with, by being bipolar.
I'm
no.
sure.
Have they come up to you and said, hey,
Oh my
I have
gosh.
this too? And what's been that interaction? I'm sure that you've helped quite a few people, and maybe they've helped you.
Oh, I would say they gave me meaning. So I think during the period of time, because I kind of debuted during Corona. So I was a Corona artist, and
Which is no fun time.
which is no fun because there's no shows. So I literally,
Oh, God.
yeah, I literally put out an album, and then my second album, before ever understanding or ever knowing what type of reach I had with what type of crowd. So I think it was so right after that, we went on world tour once Corona kind of died down a little, and it was the first time I got to see who my music was impacting. And I would always remember, like, not the shows itself, but really when the shows finish, and you know how you go to the bus and if the fans are waiting for you, I would always take time to listen to as many of the fans' stories as I could, because I think it was the first time I got to see who it was impacting. And I would always remember all these fans per show would say how much my songs saved their lives.
Wow.
And for me to hear that, it's like I can't fathom that. Like I just like that's exactly what I wanted it for it to do, but I think it was such a different approach when I actually heard it. And I think for me, I always say this, but it makes all of these things that I was just telling you about, becoming an artist, and potentially becoming maybe more self-destructive in a way where you are honing into a certain disorder and you're bringing it more to life. But I think by uncovering it, it becomes so much worthwhile to fans if it becomes that type of representation where it's like, if you can, I mean, there's a saying where it's like, if I could just remember, but something along the lines of the disorder doesn't represent who you are. And for me, I think that's kind of the message I really did want to bring when I wanted to make this really personal, because I think at the end of the day, I was researching certain people that have the same type of bipolar. That was my first go-to, as like celebrities or people in the scene. And, just to my dismay, I think there was a lot more tragic incidents in this scene with people with that type of disorder. So I kind of wanted to be more of that beacon of like hope, I guess you could say.
Right.
But at the same time, I do know how self-destructive it might be, because I think the one thing you don't want to give people with certain manic disorders is you don't want to stimulate them too much, because if you're in your manic highs, the more you're stimulated, the more you get, I would say, insane. Stimulate them too much, because if you're in your manic highs, the more you're stimulated, the more you get, I would say, insane ideas, and you'll truly believe it. And
that makes sense.
I think for me, it's like the approach of like knowing how to balance that, but there is no balance.
Because it's crazy. One thing you said was, and by the way, I didn't mean, I have a list of questions I was going to ask you, and none of them included.
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
No, but I appreciate you talking about this.
Yeah.
They say never, if you're sick, you have a cold or whatever, never go on to one of the medical websites, because if you log on, no matter if you get just a cold, you're going to think you're going to die. So if it's just you're going to feel worse.
You know what?
Don't look it up.
I found out the hard way. Thank you for talking. I'm sorry if this was like kind of detracting.
I mean, I would have never asked, but now that you brought it up, I felt like, man, I felt like you needed to go there for some reason, and I really was curious on what you had to say.
No
so thank you. Okay, one of the questions I was going to ask you though. When I first started getting tats,
I love him, by the way.
But thank you very much. But before I got tats, I would ask somebody like, "Hey, how many tats do you have?" And they would go, "I don't know." And I would think, "How do you not know how many tats you have?" Then I start getting tats, and somebody says, "How many tats you got, JoJo?" I'm like, "I don't know." So
I don't know.
How many tats do you have?
I was like, in my head, I was going to count as many as I could. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know.
Why are tattoos so addicting?
They all just kind of like combine together, you know what I mean?
The addiction part comes from like after you get your first one and then you're like, okay, this feels empty. I feel like this needs to be a little bit more covered. I think that's kind of where you start getting the addiction. But for me, I think because of how spontaneous I am, I think for me it's more, in the beginning it was like funny enough, I mean, I keep going back to this, but every time I have a certain event, good or bad,
right,
that happens that is kind of life altering for me, I would always mark that as a tattoo.
No kidding.
It doesn't matter where I'm at. So it would be.
I'm someone who likes to get tattoos whenever I go places. So like when I was in Australia, I actually got this tattoo. When I was in Hawaii, I got a tattoo. When I was in Vegas, I got a tattoo. Where else have I gotten tattoos? I go to the beach and get tattoos. Like, I think it's fun to, whether it's like flash tattoos or whether it's something that I've planned, it doesn't really matter, but I think it's so fun to get a tattoo, like, to remind me of like the places that I've been. I don't know, like, it's just a thing that I've started to do. And I just think it's so fun because then I can look at tattoos and be like, oh, I got this, when I was here, or you know what I mean? Like, I think it's fun, and I don't know, it's just like a nice little reminder of where I've been and things like that. So I don't know, that's just the thing that I do, but I always find it so interesting, like the reason why people get their tattoos and like the meaning behind them and things like that. I always find it so fascinating. So I get Ian when he's saying that, it's like an event, and that's when he gets his tattoos,
If I remember, I was in Peru for this one, so I was
See?
in the mountains, and
That's
I
funny.
just had like a very eureka type of moment, and I just went to the village, and they started poking this on my hand.
Oh man,
He has a poke
beautiful.
tattoo.
Oh, thank you.
That's cool.
I couldn't finish it because it hurt so bad.
I'm sure.
But yeah, and that's another thing. Are you good at
No.
paint? Oh, sorry.
Like, I can't get. I hate getting shots.
Oh yeah.
But and granted, getting a shot is different than a tattoo.
Yeah.
It's more of a scratching thing. I get
Right.
that, but I'm not a needle fan at
Right.
all.
Oh,
So
you're like me then.
it's just one of them weird things.
Oh,
Do
it
you have any
doesn't bother
tattoo
me at all.
regrets or?
I think I have like a couple of tattoos that I'm like, I don't remember when I took that because I have so many moments. And I'll just kind of do it over, I think. But for now, I think it's fine.
Doing good now. All right.
Yeah.
You don't know this about me. This is the final thing I'll touch on.
Yes.
And this has nothing to do with music, nothing to do with you, really.
Okay.
I will see. I don't know. I am obsessed with the paranormal.
Oh wow.
Ghost, UFOs,
Wow.
everything in between. I've got a podcast called Paranormalish. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm there.
Wow.
That's
Have
cool.
you ever had anything, any experience that you would consider
Yes.
paranormal?
Interesting question.
To be
I'm
completely
also,
honest, yeah, it's like
if you guys don't know, I'm a spiritualist. I'm very much into crystals, tarot, spirits, things like that. Spiritual energy, energy in general, actually. So, I find that question very interesting.
when I do these switches.
Oh wow. Okay.
Do you believe that the human mind, the consciousness, our brains are capable of I'll guess training new type of skills to a person or understanding. For example, if there's a part of your brain, I feel like when you switch, if you're someone that felt pain physically and you're so not good at feeling pain, and you switch to a character, and that character had different type of wiring in the brain because you allowed yourself to switch. Do you believe that it's capable that a person could now not feel pain?
I think it's certainly certainly possible.
Right,
I don't know
depending-
how it would work.
Right.
I think everyone would love to learn how to
Right.
harness that, channel it, or just do
Right.
it in general. But I think
Do
that's
it in general. I think that's good.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
that would be I think it would be possible.
Right.
Can you do that?
For me, that the switches to the character motto, it kind of has that representation of knowing different things, and this is why I say this is probably why I black out too, because it's kind of more like he sounds different, reaches a octave that I can't reach.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So there's a
and
physical change.
There's a physical change and a whole demeanor change and knowledge change. So there'll be things that I have no knowledge about, and he
So
will have a
fascinating.
lot of knowledge.
Which not to get too deep.
Yep.
But you being Ian as you are now,
Yep.
you cannot hit a certain octave.
Yes. That's
But you
correct.
switch this other character,
it's
and
a
you
certain
can,
octave. That's
which
correct.
means your body, you have the
capabilities.
capability to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
So is it a matter of just making your mind, just believing in yourself?
I think so.
Is that kind of what it is? Like if you can just believe, and
Yeah.
is that
I don't know. I've tried so many times because what we do is we record this and just for self-documentation. My team has been on it for a while.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
And it's something so
To be
paranormal
honest, I'd be
to me
curious and do
that
it
it's-
too. I'd
it's
just
hard
be
to believe.
I'd just like Ian, I'd be so interested and curious to know, like, why does everything change so drastically whenever I switch? And I feel like I would honestly do the same thing. Like, have people record me so I could like see the change happen and what exactly, I don't know, because I also find it like so fascinating the fact that that Maito has all of this different knowledge compared to, like, I know people were in the comments talking to me about how Maito has like very Catholic knowledge, like very much knows a lot about religion, Catholicism, like angels, demons, you know, stuff like that. Very biblical knowledge, I guess I should say. So I find that really, really fascinating that Maito has the knowledge and is very interested in it, and Ian not so much. Like, it's very fascinating to me, and honestly, I think I would do the same and like try to understand it more, I guess I should say. Like, I think the brain is so fascinating, and I did take a basic class on I'm trying to think of what the class was called. Now I can't even remember. But it was the psychology of the brain, basically, and I can't think of the name of the class that I took. But it was basically just going over, like, just talking about the brain and how it's wired and how it can change throughout the years, and like our different triggers, and you know, the difference between like dopamine or like fight flight responses, or just how we react to different things, and like how our brain is wired the way that it is, but also if something traumatic happens, how the wiring can completely change. So it's very interesting, and I feel like that's kind of what happens. I think Ian's brain kind of rewires based on a trauma response. But I find it very interesting, and I would definitely be interested in learning more about it, but that's kind of what it sounds like he's saying. Like, his brain just kind of rewires whenever he switches due to a traumatic response. But I don't know, I'm very fascinated, and I think the human brain is also very fascinating, and how it works, and how, you know, the neurons connect, and, you know, things like that. It's very, I don't know. I could just like I could take classes on it. I could like I'm just so fascinated about the brain. I'm just so fascinated about people in general, humans in general, how they work, why they become the way they are. Like, that's the whole reason why I even studied psychology. It's just humans are so interesting. They really are. I'm sorry.
And at the same time, like, you are seeing it, and you just can't make sense of it.
That's fascinating.
So,
and kind of cool. That is kind of cool.
It is kind of cool.
Learning how to harness that is the kicker, I'm guessing. For anyone, not just you, but wow.
Yeah.
Ian, you are a fascinating dude.
Oh,
and we gotta chat more and do some food. You live in LA now.
I would love to. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I did not know he was based in LA.
I promise.
I definitely thought he was still in South Korea.
What would you like to say to your fans? New fans, old fans, whatever.
Yeah. I would honestly like to say everything like we even talked about today. Like, we call our fans dreamers, and I think literally, like, our fans are the only reason we're like really doing this. Honestly, I don't know any other reason to be doing this. I'm not chasing anything else but to give a voice to our dreamers and fans out there. Well, not even just fans too, just people that kind of need reassurance. I always found the idea of being perfect was accepting how imperfect everything is.
So
and
true.
I think that's kind of generally what
I
we feel
totally agree.
representation of.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, which is why, you know, our team in DPR and all that, we really kind of do strive for that. And I think at the end of the day, it really just does boil down to, it's because we're doing it for our fans and the people out there that hopefully become our fans.
Yeah.
So I just want to say a big thank you. And, you know, we always find our way to you guys. We always do. So, you know, just keep that in mind. And, obviously we have so many new things coming out. The whole Dear Insanity EP, and the law continues. And we love him so much. I don't know what else to say.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure of mine. Thank you so much. It's an honor. Really.
It's honor's mine. At the end of every interview, Ian, fist bump to make it official. Give me a little.
Yeah.
Go!
Thank you.
That was cute. I really enjoyed that interview. I've never heard of JoJo before. I've never watched an interview of his before, but I really liked his vibes, and he was very understanding and very interested in Ian's story and what exactly, he goes through and things like that. And I think he was very genuine, and I really enjoyed how he interviewed Ian. I don't know, I feel like there's just so much more I could learn. But I'm glad that he knows very much that he's definitely made a difference in dreamers' lives, especially the ones who, have bipolar disorder, have DID. And I'm sure that those dreamers find so much inspiration from him. I think it's really cool. And it's a huge reason why I love Ian, and I'm just going to continue to support him because I just think he's an awesome person, and I definitely want to continue giving him my support. But yeah, that was a really good interview. Thank you to Mimi for recommending that. I really enjoyed the interview. I have a couple more interviews that they recommended as well. One interview is literally 2 hours long. So that one I might be putting on Patreon, to be honest with you, since it's such long content. But then there's another one that's about the same as this. It's 32 minutes from P6 Show. It's live and Ian on P6 Show. So I might get to that eventually. But yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed me watching this interview and learning more about Ian and what he goes through. And after I get this reaction up, I will be getting to some more visualizers that I haven't gotten to yet. And then after I get to these visualizers, I'm just going to start hopping into full album reactions. So be on the lookout for those. Of course, are going to also be on Patreon. So any long form content, album reactions, variety shows, reality shows, what else? Dramas, survivals, things like that are all going to be on my Patreon from now on. Usually I don't mind doing interviews on YouTube. I don't mind reacting to those and putting those on YouTube, but since this one interview is 2 hours long, I feel like it's going to take me a while to record and edit and all that stuff. So that's probably going to go on Patreon. But yeah, I really am just so fascinated and also empathetic, and I feel like I just sneezed, sorry. Nope. Gosh. But yeah. Okay. I'm excited to hop into these visualizers, so be on the lookout for that reaction after this one. But yeah, thank you so much for the recommendation. I just feel like I have so much more to learn, so much more to understand when it comes to Ian and his lore, and things like that. But I'm very much looking forward to seeing them in concert at the end of September. I feel like that's going to come up so quickly because we're already in August, which is crazy. But anyways, I also am planning, I forgot to say this, I'm planning on trying to do a vlog. So I did a first attempt vlog when I went to go see Ace in New York. So I'm going to try to do it again, try to do another vlog when going to see DPR. So I just think it's fun to showcase my experience, going to the concert, but also showing some concert videos in there as well. I also got me and my friend meet and greet, so we are going to go get a picture with Ian, Cream, and Arctic. So I also kind of want to talk about my experience with that and things like that. So hopefully the vlog turns out well. Sometimes I'm like really bad at remembering to record things, especially like performances, because I'm not someone who like stands there at a concert and records the whole time. I can't do it, because I'm vibing. Like, I like to vibe and just have fun, and sing and dance like at concerts. So I can't like stand still for like that long. So I usually just take like 30-second, 1-minute snippets of like performances that I really like, and then I just enjoy myself the rest of the time. So don't expect like full on performances start to finish in my vlog, because I just don't have the capacity for that. But there'll definitely be some content for the performances and things like that. But yeah, I just want to like warn you guys. I'm not someone who just like on my phone the whole time recording. But anyways, I'm super excited. I like genuinely cannot wait for this concert. Not just Ian, like I'm excited to like see all three of them. But yeah, all right guys. That is it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this reaction. I hope you guys stay safe, stay healthy, be yourselves, and have a good day. Bye guys.